from your local news leader. This is 13 News at 11.
A nightmare scenario. A Navy FA-18D Hornet goes down directly into an apartment complex.
When I looked out, I saw a pilot laying there.
There's so much damage and people that are hurt.
Tonight, the panic that hit the neighborhood and the acts of bravery that may have saved lives and the desperate search for those still missing. Good evening and thanks for joining us for our special coverage of the catastrophe in Virginia Beach. I'm Regina Mobley in the 13 News studios.
And I'm David Allen, live in Virginia Beach, where the headline tonight is 3 people still missing in this crash, and the Navy announces plans to cancel flight operations at Oceana. Behind me is the Mayfair Mews apartment complex, which tonight is essentially a pile of rubble. And in the middle of that rubble is what's left of a Navy fighter jet that left Oceana shortly after noon today, experienced some type of mechanical problem, we're told, and crashed into these homes. We're going to begin tonight by giving you a little better idea of exactly where we are. We are off of Bird Neck Road between Laskin Road and 264. This is a very heavily populated area. The crash site is not far from an art museum. It's not far from Virginia Beach Middle School, not far from Cook Elementary. Fortunately, there was no school today, but this gives you an idea of just how close we were to a much larger disaster. Again, just after noon, calls started coming into 13 News that a plane had gone down here. And soon after that, we started seeing video taken seconds after the crash. The tail of an FA-18 Hornet sitting in the middle of an apartment complex. And fire burning through buildings and all around. Again, all of the makings of a major disaster. As for our coverage, we had a crew in the area working on another story when this happened. And the video that we sent back just minutes after the crash happened is breathtaking. Fires everywhere. You can see neighbors clinging to each other, rescuers guiding those who didn't know where they were going. In many ways, some real tough stuff to watch. Now, from the air, another perspective of this story for you. The scope of the damage really starts to sink in here. You see whole buildings now gone. And that blob of white in the center of the apartment complex is the special foam used to put out the fires from jet fuel. And then came an image we will never forget. This is exclusive video for you. It's of one of the 2 pilots of that fighter jet, rescued, alive, and being rushed into a waiting ambulance surrounded by emergency crews. Just an amazing scene out here today as first responders and everyday extraordinary people rushed to the scene, grabbed fire hoses to help out, and tried to comfort those who were lost and confused in that moment right after the disaster. Brian Farrell joins me now as part of our coverage, and I know, Brian, tonight you had an opportunity to go closer into the crash site.
Yeah, and we were talking about perspective and kind of giving people an idea of where we are. If you see Bird Neck Road behind, you have the apartments just bordering Bird Neck, and we actually were able to go onto the property with some of the emergency workers right at the line, really, where this courtyard is that has been cordoned off. We watched some of them going in and out. Now, what they're doing in part is called delayering. That literally sounds like what it is. When you have a collapse of any kind and you've got all that rubble, all that waste and all that's there, they are sifting through that piece by piece, layer by layer, trying to find anyone who may be trapped inside. A wash down to decontaminate. Firefighters leaving the literal hot zone that Mayfair Mews Apartments, what's left of it, has become. Beyond the rubble, more remains, those of a Navy FA-18D that crashed Friday, shortly after noon.
It hit, and it just, the whole thing was in flames, the whole backyard. And then things started to explode. And I don't know, I mean, things just kept exploding and that black smoke kept going.
A Navy spokesman says the Hornet had a catastrophic mechanical malfunction just after it and its 2-person crew took off from Naval Air Station Oceana. The jet began dumping fuel. The fleet replacement pilot, who was training, and his instructor forced to eject, one of them landing on Pat Kavanaugh's deck.
Got off the couch and went to the back door, the sliding door, and when I looked out, I saw a pilot laying there, bleeding from the nose, and his parachute hanging from the building, and I knew exactly what happened. He apologized sincerely for hitting our complex, and I told him, don't worry about it. You just take care of yourself, we'll take care of you. Everybody else will take care of the other stuff.
Both crew members taken to the hospital for treatment, along with 3 people on the ground when the jet hit, plus 2 emergency workers, none seriously hurt.
We have the manifesto from the apartment complex, of every number that they have.
Late Friday, crews continue to make sure no one is trapped in the devastation. Only 3 people unaccounted for. Workers stress no one has been reported missing. They keep going until they account for the unaccounted. And those three people who have been unaccounted for are in the same building, we're told. Now, we want to emphasize again from emergency workers, just because they've not been accounted for, don't read into that too much. They say it's quite possible with the holiday weekend, people could be traveling because of Easter. It could be old phone numbers where they've not been able to reach somebody. So again, 3 they've not been able to somehow get in contact with or identify as being safe at this point. So they're going to keep going until they're able to do that.
Brian, when do they move to the next phase of this process, and what is the next phase?
Next, as far as the firefighters go, fire investigators will be the actual investigative part, and that starts hopefully tomorrow. Once they kind of get this delayering done, they're able to account for those 3 people who have been missing, then they will move into their investigative part from the fire end of it.
All right, Brian, thank you so much. And again, we want to say that the pictures from the scene of this crash are absolutely amazing. It's stunning to consider. Think about a military fighter jet crashing into your home. That's exactly what happened here today. Dozens of people living here. Everything they own is here. All of that tonight is gone. And tonight we have people who are literally homeless because of this. 13 News reporter Karen Hopkins is live for us tonight at an emergency shelter that has been set up by the city at Bird Neck Elementary School. And Karen, tell me, how many people are there and how is it going there?
Well, it's going well, David. Everyone now has been moved into hotels, but some families are completely devastated. They're going to have to start over. Many of them came here to check in with the Red Cross to get some help after this disaster.
I thought there was a bomb going off, and I came outside, it was a jet.
It looked like something out of a movie, smoke funneling into the sky after a Navy jet crashes into Virginia Beach apartments.
I'm all right. It just missed our office by about 100 yards.
Jeff Swobe escaped in the nick of time.
When I pulled out there, I heard bam, and I saw the smoke.
He's one of more than a dozen families forced from their homes.
And I looked over to my left, and I saw the plane coming over top of the roof.
The Red Cross is helping people who lived here find shelter. Red Bisbee is left wondering if he lost everything inside his apartment.
And they keep asking us questions, but we don't know the answers. We haven't seen the apartment. I don't know if my car's all right. I don't know.
With their homes torn apart, melted, and barely standing, they aren't worried about what's inside.
I left my cell phone on the table, everything. I just ran and pushed my son in the wheelchair.
Before the crash, the pilots ejected safely.
The pilot was laying on the ground. He had his parachute, you know, and some of the younger guys dragged him over to the driveway.
One way or the other, they all got out alive.
A friend of mine told me, he said, well, you better hurry up and get out of there. I told him the plane's crashing. I'm watching the plane come right down.
It's a jet.
And the Red Cross has helped 23 people here find a place to stay. You can see that they're basically cleaning up as of now. But we do have with us over here, this is the Director of Human Services, Robert Morin, and you're going to tell us a little bit about how people can get help tomorrow.
Right. Well, tomorrow the plan right now is that the Navy will come in and spend some time with the residents and talk about what's next in the future. The City of Virginia Beach will be here too, representing the departments from the city. I'll be here also to see if there's any assistance we can provide. But the intent here is to have the Navy have some dialogue with the residents from the apartment complex.
Right, Robert Morin, thank you so much. So really this is just the beginning of the process now for so many families who have been devastated by this crash. And we're live here in Virginia Beach. David, back to you.
All right, Karen, thank you so much. And looking ahead to tomorrow, the Navy tells us a handful of flights is scheduled for tomorrow morning around 8 o'clock, and then after that, all flights will be suspended until Monday morning. Regina, that's the very latest from here in Virginia Beach. Back to you.
All right, thanks, David. Let's talk a little bit more about the scene. David Allen and Brian Farrell there tonight. More on the pilots and the plane. We're told there was a student pilot on board in the front seat, along with a more experienced pilot in the back seat. We mentioned both ejected before the crash, and there's exclusive video as rescue workers rush a crewman to a waiting ambulance. And it seems the quick thinking of residents in Virginia Beach helped to save those crewmen. We spoke with a young man who was at one pilot's side moments after he landed in his ejection seat.
And actually, I ran to my friend Pat's house, who is a rescue squad member, and I saw the pilot, I saw the parachute on the house, and he was still connected to it, and he was laying on the ground with his face full of blood. So I ran over, I asked him if he was okay.
Jim?
He looked up at me, and he didn't say anything. So I ran inside trying to find Pat's phone, and he was like, I don't have a phone, so I ran back out. And the pilot said, I'm sorry for destroying your house. And I just bent down and I touched him. I was like, it's okay. It really is. Are you okay? He was like, I think I am.
Away from the crash scene, more debris rained down, including the ejection seats from the $37 million plane. These are extremely heavy, and you can see the shape they were in after coming down. And the plane's cracked canopy landed on a fence in a neighborhood. We can't stress how fortunate we were that no one was in that backyard when that seat came crashing back down to earth. We mentioned populated areas. Virginia Beach is the most populous city in the Commonwealth, and crowding around Oceana has been an issue before. Tonight, Mike Gooding tells us we may once again face some tough questions about the future of the Masterjet base.
After years of too much construction, Naval Air Station Oceana became too encroached upon. There were simply too many houses and businesses too close by, and something had to be done. The state and the city embarked on a $15 million annual land buyback program. When the city of Virginia Beach bought 800 acres of wetlands and woods off Indian River Road last November from Rock Church Ministries, it was the largest single land buyback to date in the ongoing Oceana Encroachment Rollback Program. But by no means was it the first. Since 2005, the city, in partnership with the state, had already spent $61 million to acquire 422 acres in Accident Potential Zone 1 and eliminated 28 incompatible commercial units. Despite those achievements, the General Assembly last year almost removed the state's $7.5 million annual contribution. But Governor Bob McDonnell restored the funds. McDonnell's office says the jet base is good for everyone, with spokesman Tucker Martin telling 13 News Oceana may be physically located in Virginia Beach, but its economic impact is felt across the entire Commonwealth. Retaining Oceana is not a regional matter, it's a matter of great interest and importance to the entire state.
I believe that everything that we've done in the past year, working with the legislators, will pay off this year, and I don't anticipate them pulling that money.
Mike Gooding, 13 News.
That state budget is still in flux. Meantime, Congressman Scott Ridgell told us today that the way the Navy has dealt with encroachment has actually been used as an example for other cities on how to deal with encroachment. We've also heard from Governor Bob McDonnell, who said, quote, I have spoken to Virginia Beach Mayor Will Sessom several times and informed him that all Commonwealth resources are available to him. He went on to say, our fervent prayer is that no one was injured or killed in this accident. And there's still a lot more of news to get to tonight. When we come back, we return to the scene of the crash and hear in their own words the stories of those who saw and heard the crash.
And things starting to clear out now. Of course, the crash site earlier today, right in line there with the takeoff pattern at Oceana, because the winds were out of the north. That northerly wind really affects us through the weekend as well. We'll talk more about how it's going to keep the chill around.